Hi guys, Thanksgiving is over and you know what that means. We are fully into Christmas now. Am I posting this the day after Thanksgiving? Yes. Yes, I am. That doesn't mean anything. Is my fall stuff still up? Yeah, because I need to embrace fall as long as I can because I only get it once. So these books are books that make me feel the way that I want to feel in the holidays. So when I go into the holidays, I want to have that cozy feeling of I'm in my house, I'm by the Christmas tree, the lights are on, I'm curled up in my bed with a cup of hot chocolate, I am reading a book that brings me back to the nostalgia and happiness of my childhood. Sometimes it has to do with Christmas, sometimes it's just a book that gives me Christmassy vibes and that happy cozy feeling. So all these books give me that kind of a vibe. Okay, first I'm going to start with specifically Christmas books. So this one is The Quiet Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is one that I read when I was probably 10. I don't know, people give me books when I was younger and I would read them and then I'd keep them forever and I don't remember where they came from. But this one specifically is a Christmas anthology. One thing you're going to learn about me is I love me a good Christmas anthology. But this one has 3 short stories about young girls around Christmas time. 2 of them are about orphans and them getting adopted into a home. And then one of them is just a girl who gets to talk to a talking horse because they can talk at Christmas. And I was a horse girl when I was younger, so I ate that up. This is one that's actually going to be on my personal TBR for the holidays just because I really like rereading my Christmassy books around the holidays. So this one's gonna be on my personal TBR. So this one I actually haven't read, but this one represents Christmas anthologies with Sarah M. Eden in them specifically because I adore her Christmas anthologies and all the ones that she's in. The other authors that are in there, I've liked a lot of their short stories too, but her short stories, so good. I need to own every single one of them. But this one specifically has, I started reading this one, but I stopped reading it because I was in a mood. It has a short story about the mother of one of the characters in her Interconnected Standalone series and how she finds love after her husband died. This one's gonna be on my personal TBR for this year, but I've read other anthologies by her last year. I adore every single one of them. They are worth it. They're worth it. I got my friend to read one of her anthologies. It wasn't Christmas. It was I think that one was a summer. I can't remember what that one's called. It was a summer anthology and she's like, this is so cute. I'm like, yes, thank you. Please read all of her books now. And this one is a full-on story set at Christmas time called A Glimmer of Hope by Sarah M. Eden, the one and only. All of her books you could read at Christmas time. I have actually read last year, I think I started my reread of all of her books, I think right after Christmas, and it followed into the new year. But this one specifically, she has 2 series of interconnected standalones that interconnect into each other and become just kind of one series of interconnected standalones. And this one is a standalone within the interconnected standalone that's vaguely interconnected. And this, my goodness guys, cried. Bawled my eyes out. I actually love this book, but don't go into it thinking that it's a happy cozy book. It is a happy cozy book, but it will also make you bawl your eyes out. Sorry, I just started thinking about it and made me sad. Oh, I need to reread that this year. Okay, the rest of these might have Christmas in them at some point, but they're not specifically Christmas books. First, we're going to start with the one and the only Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This one starts with Christmas. It's them at Christmas time. And every single time I think of this book, I think of the beginning of it. So Little Women, if you haven't read it, is about 4 girls who grow up around the Civil War time. They're in the North and their dad is in the war. He's, I think, a medic or something like that. And it shows them growing up through their lives, their love stories, how they progress and get better. Your main character is Jo March, but there's also Jo, Amy, it's Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy. And it shows them and their lives, and there's nothing that I love better than watching a girl grow up and become the person that she's going to be, as you're going to see by all of these books, because that's literally the plot of every single one of them. But this one has, I think, Christmas in it 2 times, and I remember, when was that? I think it was COVID Christmas in 2020, where I got a puzzle for Christmas, or a couple days before Christmas, and it was a bunch of horses. I don't know if I still have the puzzle, but it had a bunch of horses, and I had a big chalkboard in my room, and I just did the puzzle, I think for 2 days straight, and I listened to the audiobook of Little Women, and that's just, whenever I think of Little Women, that's how I think of it now. The movie, okay, I need to rewatch the 2019 one because I didn't love it, but I love the 1994, 1995 one. So good. With, what's her name? It's not Keira Knightley. That's the new one. The old one's the Beetlejuice person. I don't remember. I love the old one though, specifically because, my goodness, that, what's his name? Lori, so cute, so cute. I didn't even know he played in Newsies, but now I also love Newsies. Anyway, Little Women, always a Christmas classic for me. Okay, let's do another Lucy May Alcott while we're talking about her, An Old-Fashioned Girl. This one is about a girl who goes and visits her cousins because she's like a small town girl, and she visits her cousins in the big city, and her cousins are more wealthy than her. And I don't remember the plot of this book. I read this like 5 years ago because these are all in the public domain, so you can find them on websites. And I read it on my teeny tiny little broken iPod, and it was a web browser. I can't even remember the website. I've looked for it and I can't remember what it was, but it had classics on it, and you'd scroll down to the bottom of the chapter, click next chapter, scroll down, read it to the next chapter, click next chapter. And I read so many classics that way. I think it was over like 3 or 4 months that I just read classics. That's all I read, and this is one of them, and I've thought about it ever since. Don't remember the plot, but it gives me that same, like, I don't know if part of it even happens at Christmas time, but for some reason it reminds me of Christmas. I need to reread it. But I honestly, anything Lucy May Alcott I recommend, because her books are just, they're so good, they're so accessible too. Like, you read it, you think, oh, this is classic, I'm so scared. No, it's just about a girl. It's always just about a girl. Okay, following my classics kind of vibe, we've got Pat of Silverbush and Mistress Pat by Ella Montgomery. I could recommend every single one of her books for Christmas time. I think she even has like a Christmas collection of stories. I want to own every single one of her books eventually, but I am not that wealthy, and I don't think any of them are out of print actually, but some of them are like harder to find. These ones, I need new copies because it's literally falling apart. I need to tape it back together. But this one is about a girl who loves her house. She doesn't want to ever leave her house. She loves Silverbush. She loves her home. She loves her family. She loves her friends. But above all, she loves her house. And it follows her as she grows up. And I think there's a love story. And I don't remember everything that happens. But I adore these two books. I read them when I was like 15, I think. Maybe? I don't remember. I went through a phase where all I read were old classics because new books are kind of scary, honestly, to me. That's one of the things I've been like hitting on the head this year is reading newer books, because I read all the classics and now there's no more classics to read besides War and Peace, which is terrifying. So these ones, every time I think about them, I just remember her feeling of loving to be at home, and that is how I always feel around Christmas. So, and they're really short. Like, these are the only two in the series. So if you wanted to read Ella Montgomery, you can always read Anne of Green Gables. I recommend the whole series because you get to see her whole entire lifespan, and it's just a character study about a girl, and I love it so much. And then Emily of New Moon's also really good. I need to do a reread of that one. That one kind of has a sadder undertone, so I don't really recommend it for Christmas, but I do really love Emily of New Moon. Beauty by Robin McKinley. This is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and it's kind of got magical undertones. This follows more the old, what is it called? Charles Perrault? Grimm Brothers. This follows the old Grimm Brothers story more than like the Walt Disney version is. So it's Beauty and the Beast, but it's Beauty and the Beast like you'd read it in an old book. And I really like this one. I read it when I was younger. This is not my original copy of this book. This is one that I found at DI recently. My original copy, I loaned it to a friend, and she said she gave it back to me. She never did. I've never seen that book again. I don't know where it went. I'm still a little bit salty about that. Okay, one of my absolute favorite books of all time, Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. Do I love every single one of her books? Absolutely. Well, some of her newer books don't give the same vibes, but all of her like fairy tale books specifically, I think there's 3 or 4 that are in kind of like an interconnected series. Ella Enchanted, and I guess there's Ogre Enchanted now, which was fine. I didn't really enjoy it that much because I love Ella Enchanted so much. It's on a pedestal. The movie's good, it's fine, but it's its own thing. It's not this. Ella Enchanted, the movie, is a different story. This is its own story. It follows a girl who gets cursed as a child to be obedient. And it is a curse because she cannot not do something that someone orders her to do. So she basically goes through her life trying to find the fairy that cursed her and tell her to change her back. It is a Cinderella story, but in a way that I don't really want to spoil because it's so precious to me. And I loved reading this as a girl. And I need to do a reread because I love it so much. Another book that I loved when I was younger is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Now, this book I received for Christmas when I was 9, I think, and so that's probably why it gives me the Christmas vibes. But I reread this so many times. I actually wrote an entire paper on this when I was in college because we were supposed to write about, it was a dumb class. Not going to get into that, but I wrote an entire paper on this book because I love it so much. It follows a girl. she gets sent to a boarding school because her mom died when she was younger. And her dad's like, you don't really want to stay here. I'm going to send you somewhere where you can get a good proper education, then you can come back to me. And she's like, okay, that's fine. She's like 8 years old. She stays there. I think 12 is when the events of this book goes down. So her dad dies. And as he dies, all of his money that he had, because he was extremely wealthy, down the drain, gone. And so she's immediately poor. And so the owner of the boarding school that she lives at is like, well, your father, like, you're in deep debt to me because I was like sporting the bills for all these bills, and your father died before he could pay the final bill, so you have to be my indentured servant now. And she's like, okay. So she's basically mistreated for like, I think it's a full year maybe, and then stuff happens, and it is a happy ending. But the reason I love this book so much is the morality of the main character and how good she is. This book is the third book in the series. I love the whole series. You can read this one by itself and you'll understand, you'll know what's going on. It's they're not interconnected standalones, because if you read the first books, like, you understand a lot better what's going on. But this one specifically, oh my goodness, I love it so much. It starts with Christmas. You get to follow those characters through the whole book. The first book in the series follows 6 teenagers in high school, and they kind of go through their lives, and you get to see how their lives interconnect and how they help each other and how they grow. And then the second book follows them kind of at college, and then the third book, you do see them like as they're married in their lives, and then their siblings as they go into high school. And this book specifically gives Christmas, but all of them I really, really enjoy. I've been recommending this book for years. No one reads them. I'm so mad. The first book's called Yearbook, and they're by Ali Condi. This one specifically is not the book I'm recommending, just Jeff Wheeler in general. I don't own my favorite series by him. I only own books that I haven't read. I'm trying to collect the full series before I read it. There's also like a prequel series that I've read 2 of the books of, and now I need to read the next. I think he's finished it. I think there's 3 more books in it, and I need to read those before I start this series. But he has an interconnected series. So there's 3 main series that are in one world, and that's the Muirwood, the Legends of Muirwood, Tales from Muirwood, and then the Harbinger series. And I started reading the Harbinger series. So good. They are they're not even Christian. They just kind of give Christian vibes. But his are kind of like cozy fantasy books, and I love them so much, because you learn about these characters, and then in the next series, those characters that you learned about are basically like their mythology and their ancestors, and so it like goes down through time. And then there's no whole other series that's like interconnected like worlds wise, so like their worlds are connected, but like those characters don't really interact with each other. I love his world so much. His writing does something to my brain. It makes me feel like I'm happy and like I'm at home. So this specifically, I haven't read this book, but any of his books I recommend. Pick them up, read them, except maybe his first 2 books, Silverkin and Firekin and Silverkin. I don't remember what his first 2 books are. Don't read those 2. Those are his first 2 books. They're not as good. They're still his writing, so they're still good, but they're not as good. So I recommend any of his other books first. The final book that I have to recommend is Up a Road Slowly by Irene Hunt. This book, I don't even think it has Christmas in it, but I think her mom dies, and so her dad sends her to live with his sister, so her aunt, and she lives with her aunt, and at first they're like really contentious, but then as it goes on, they like form a love for each other and attachment, and it just follows her life and how she grows up and how she makes her decisions. That's describing every single one of these books basically, but that's just my favorite genre, I guess, is classics with girls growing up. I don't know why. It's just what I love. But this one specifically, I read this, I think in high school, and I cried. I bawled my eyes out. I love this book so much. It's not a sad book. It's just a happy book, and I loved how it ended. Those are the books I would recommend for like a holiday cozy vibe going into it. None of them are Christmassy. You could read them at any time of the year, but I love rereading them around Christmas. But I hope you'll find something you want to read. If you don't want to read these, totally fine. But thank you for watching. I will be giving way more Christmassy content soon, so stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.